Matt in Swindon. Good afternoon, Harry and Sally. After seeing Kevin on the Actors Studio, I was wondering if we could have him persuade the listeners to watch Recount tonight using his Christopher Walken impression.
It's crazy. It's a crazy movie. You gotta watch. It's funny. Ha-ha.
There you go. Here comes the box office top 10 this week, with Mark being pithy and Kevin just interjecting when he feels moved by the spirit. At 10, disaster movie.
It's horrible, and it's not even about disaster movies. It's just... Yuck. You have to disagree now.
That was the original title of Recount.
Oh, very good.
Okay, the standard's high. Pineapple Express at 9.
It's nothing like as funny as it ought to be, and I think this whole Judd Apatow stable thing has finally run its course. I think the sort of the Revenge of the Nerds revival is over, and I think Pineapple Express is the reason, is proof of why.
And not nearly as good as Watermelon Tunnel.
I must have missed that one. I think I know a stall that might sell it on Tottenham Court Road. The Duchess is at 8.
Keira Knightley's best performance, and I actually think the film's pretty good. It does have a certain degree of depth. It plays out that whole idea about it being a paradigm of the modern monarchy quite broadly, but I think that's perfectly fine. And I think she really is turning into a proper actress, as opposed to the not proper actress that I thought she possibly was in the past.
You've seen that, Kimmy?
I haven't.
The Duchess?
I have nothing to say.
Where do you stand on Keira Knightley?
Oh, I'd stand on her anytime. Yeah, what?
The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas is at number 7.
Probably we both saw this. Surprisingly, I actually thought it was... I went into it really expecting to not like it, but in the end I was kind of won over. It's a brave attempt to tell an important story for young kids. I mean, it is clearly... a movie, which your kids have to, I think it's 12 and upwards they have to be, but it's very, very difficult to do a Holocaust story for school children, and I think they've done it rather well.
You seen that, Kevin?
I haven't, but I have seen The Girl in My Pajamas.
Are there any films you go to the cinema?
No, he's not. He's just this is great,
Okay, a gag with every movie.
A gag with every movie.
The Woman at 6. The Women.
That was the short film. The Women. It's a remake, and the original was a million times better. And this is very terrible. And what on earth has happened to Meg Ryan? I mean, what has happened to Meg Ryan? Really?
What has happened to Meg Ryan? Kevin?
Yeah. What has happened to Meg Ryan?
I don't know. Maybe it's just that she hasn't had enough injections of good roles lately.
Very good. Very good. You see what he did there? It was good. I don't know, yeah.
Mama, as a treat also for webcam viewers who are following that. This is all being streamed live, by the way, online. So we have Mamma Mia at 5.
Proof that a film really can be so bad it's brilliant, and there's so few films in which that is true. But in the case of Mamma Mia, the moment when Pierce Brosnan starts to sing, it is like good becomes bad, light becomes dark, up becomes down.
Could he have done Bobby Darin? Do you think, Pierce Brosnan?
Well, funnily enough, because when you came on the programme, you talked about Bobby Darin, and I said, because the interesting thing about Bobby Darin is all to do with phrasing. Actually, in his case, it's not to do with notes, and because you toured all the Bobby Darin sets, which was very, a very good thing to do. In the case of Pierce Brosnan, it's not just that he can't sing, he can barely speak. I mean, it's really astonishing. It's like watching somebody learning to communicate on screen. But it's wonderful. It's so terrible.
Not pithy.
Mamma Mia, now and forever.
Death Race at 4.
Well, here's the pithy review of Death Race, right? It's the remake of Death Race 2000 by Paul W.S. Anderson. Right, this is the BBFC certificate for the original Death Race 2000. X. That's what Death Race 2000 X, right? This is the certificate for the new Death Race 15, and it says, and this is the film contains scenes of death and injury during the racing. Great, fine, but the violence is shown with blood, but the scenes do not linger on the violence, and the action moves on. I don't want a version of Death Race in which it does not linger on the violence. That's the whole point of Roger Corman movies, is it lingers on the violence. I mean, it's the whole thing about what's Jaws if not a Roger Corman movie with a budget. Well, what's Death Race if not a Roger Corman movie with a budget but without the lingering violence? I don't want that, thank you very much. But Jason Statham's in it.
What's Chatteris if you're not there?
Yes.
What do you make of this?
I don't like films with lingering violence.
Do you not?
No.
Ever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gratuitous, silly. That has movies with no plot or story or characters.
Where'd you stand on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I run it like a nightlight, like a loop. No, I'm kidding.
No. Okay, but seriously, do you think it's a good movie? Because I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, the original one is good,
but
then they just kept making them.
No. Everything else off, that's fine.
He didn't say it was a masterpiece.
He said it's a good movie. Yeah,
I can't use masterpiece in the way that he does every week.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the last time I'm ever nice about you.
Righteous Kill at 3.
Wrongtious Kill. John Avnet, directing Traffic. I mean, in fact, we've got the movie that John Avnet made with Al Pacino before this coming out this week, which has been sitting on a shelf unloved. And why are De Niro and Pacino together in such a turgid, clearly clearly straight-to-video B movie that's only in cinemas because it's got them in it.
These might be Kevin's friends. You have to be careful.
I don't care if they're his friends. I mean, have you seen the film?
Of course he hasn't.
Oh, lot of money though.
Yeah, but it isn't. But it isn't. It didn't take a lot. I mean, that's the one
No,
thing.
I meant they paid me.
Oh, I see. But if you're going to sell out, that's at least do it for something like the Rugrats movie or something.
Taken's at 2.
Yeah, which I mean, Liam Neeson. Have you seen Taken? Right, you know the story, right?
Assume Kevin hasn't seen it.
Okay, here's the plot of Liam Neeson is an ex-special ops guy, and his daughter wants to go to Europe, and he says, "Don't go to Europe because it's full of bad people." But she goes to Europe, and when she's in Europe, she gets kidnapped by bad people who are going to obviously sell her into white slave trading. But there's an 88-hour delay. There always is. All terrorists
96.
observe 96 hours. Between kidnapping somebody and so
actually doing
the
harm.
thing. Yeah, exactly. So Liam has to go to Europe and kill everyone. And he does. He kills everyone.
Everyone in Europe.
Everyone in Europe. Yeah.
Wow.
Everyone in Europe who's bad with a gun and looks Albanian. Let's be precise about it.
Well, because it's interesting because it is produced by Luc Besson, who is French, and yet the portrayal of the French is, as you rightly said, there is a scene in which somebody comes down the road on a bicycle with a baguette
No, it's
under
the
their
copper.
arm.
He's a policeman because he's got a baguette.
Listening to Sacha Distel and having an affair on the side whilst it's.
Right, it's
Welcome to Europe.
Anyway, Tropic. Does that appeal to you?
Which?
Taken.
Yeah,
with Liam Neeson.
Look, I like Liam Neeson, absolutely.
I like Liam Neeson.
I'm not sure I'll be rushing out.
Okay, and the UK's number 1 is Tropic Thunder.
Which, again, is not as funny as it ought to be. And its big problem is it has too much money to play with. It's an interesting idea, and all the politically write-off stuff, the idea of Robert Downey doing blackface in the way that, for example, Spike Lee did with Bamboozled, and, those ideas are in, but they just get lost amidst the fact that it cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and it just...
Isn't Tom Cruise in this movie also?
Yeah. But Tom Cruise is now... The funny thing is, people say, oh, isn't it brave? Tom Cruise did a cameo in which he appears to be really slimy and horrible.
Why is that brave?
Well, but he does it a lot. I mean, actually, it's never been a problem for Tom Cruise. You saw Magnolia.
Sure.
There's so many films in which he does that thing. And everyone's saying, oh, well, it's really... What they mean is because he's wearing a fat suit and he appears to be bald.
DB in Soho says, could we add Kevin Spacey to our hello list? Do you think
well, if Kevin wants to, I mean, he's already, snubbed me once by saying that I say masterpiece all the time. It's going to sting.
I would have thought that a critic would have a tougher skin than that.
Oh, who told you that?
Wrong.
Who told you that? Why do you think?
Well, if you can't take it, then how can you dish it out?
You don't think I take it every day? If you ever have half an hour to spare, Google Mark Kermode an idiot, and just see how long that will last.